We are good. We are live. Holy cow. This is awesome. I would like to introduce Randall Wimmer if you'd like to kick this off.
Okay. Hey, thanks so much, Jonathan. Again, I'm Randall Wimmer, and I appreciate everybody showing up to our Make 2025 Your Year to Achieve Your Goals webinar. And I I know I'm not going to get to all the content that I want, that I want to share, or I feel like I need to share. So I'm going to refer you to our website, createpersonalequity.com. And I'm also going to ask that that if you have any interest in learning more, feel free to sign up on my Calendly link. I think we're going to make that available in the comments section.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, like I said, I do this. This is what I do now. I retired. You'll see my credibility slide here in about half a second. But I retired, and now what I do is I try to help people achieve success in whatever niche that they happen to be in. So I don't want to hold up anybody. I appreciate everybody being on time. So we'll get started. And if you're a little bit late, that's fine. We're going to be sending out a recording. So if you missed a couple minutes because you had an obligation and you got here late, no big deal. So let's get started. So this right here is my credibility slide. So that I'm supposed to provide to ensure that you'll pay attention. And it is what it is. But this is not my real credibility slide, but I'm going to give you what's expected of me. I'm a serial entrepreneur, been highly successful in the federal government contracting industry as well as other industries. I've won over $2 billion in federal government contracts. Those company logos to the right of my pictures, those are my babies that I either owned, co-owned, founded, co-founded, led, CEO of, whatever. Those are my babies. And we won over $400 million in those for these companies. And those companies have been featured in the Inc. 500 fastest growing companies list, the Washington Technology Fast 50 list. I've been invited to various CEO consortiums. And like I said, I've also done a few things outside of the federal government contracting industry. And one of the things I'm most proud of out of the GovCon world is my nonprofit organization. We had a family owned and operated nonprofit that was honored with the President George H.W. Bush Points of Light Award, and that's our nation's most prestigious honor for volunteerism that's given to nonprofit organizations. So that's my resume. That is my resume. And after I sold my last company in 2020, and I cleared all my non-competes, man, I thought I was a big dog in this industry. I really did. And the reality of it is I had I had a big dog resume, but none of these opportunities were coming in. I thought I would be receiving them left and right. I just sold 3 companies. I want you to think about that. I just sold 3 companies, won hundreds of millions of dollars, for my companies. And I just thought I was going to be asked to lead a couple of, business units or small or mid-sized businesses, sit on boards, all that kind of stuff. None of that really materialized. And I didn't know why. So what I did is I Googled myself. So when I Googled myself, I quickly realized why. I had a lower Google search ranking than an obituary, from a person who had a similar name as mine, who died in the 1980s. So I had less of a personal brand, I had a lesser personal brand than somebody who was not only inactive for 40 plus years, but was dead for those 40 plus years. So it really highlighted the fact that I had a big dog resume, but a Chihuahua personal brand. I really did. And what did that do? It held back opportunities from me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a couple of, bottom lines up front. Fact number 1, lesser qualified people are enjoying greater opportunities and success than you are. Now, that was really tough for me to swallow, but I swallowed it in 2020, 2021, because that was a fact. Like I said, I felt like I had a big dog resume, but I was being treated like a Chihuahua. and little tiny dogs were getting better opportunities than I was. Why? They didn't have a better resume than me. They had a better personal brand than I did. Fact 2, having an effective personal brand is the fastest and easiest and cheapest way to obtain your professional goals. That is no joke. And I'm here to prove that to you. It doesn't matter what it is that you want to achieve. It's going to help you out. Let's say, for example, that you're an entrepreneur or small business owner. I'm not going to read these. I'm not going to read this entire dense slide, but I'm going to throw some highlights to you. 82% of investors research business founders and CEOs online before making a funding decision. That's from Harvard Business Review. More than 50% of small businesses say the founder's personal brand is critical to company success. That's Forbes. 66% of customers say that a founder's online presence affects the perception of the brand. Businesses with a well-known founder are 43% more likely to secure partnerships. Don't believe me? Believe these industry-leading publications. Let's just say you're a professional and you want to make more money. Hey, there's nothing brash about that. People want to make more money to provide for their family better, to give their children and their families better opportunities than maybe they could have beforehand. So there's nothing wrong with that. Somehow or another, there's a bad stigma associated with wanting to make more money. Nothing is wrong with that. Basically, that translates to I want to provide for my family better.
You see?
So 85% of jobs are filled through networking and personal connections, highlighting the role of personal branding. 85%. That 85% pops up a lot of different places, and we'll cover that a little bit later on. Over 40% of recruiters are less likely to interview candidates without an online presence. Think about that. You have 40% of recruiters out there. They're probably not even going to touch you unless you have an online presence. 40% of professionals say personal branding has helped them negotiate higher salaries. 66% of executives say their earning potential increased with brand visibility. Employees with personal brands have 30% more opportunities for salary increases. Personal branding for freelancers can lead to 35% higher profitability due to client retention and referrals. Now, again, this isn't coming from me. These are coming from our industry leaders, publications, Harvard Business Review, LinkedIn, Price Waterhouse, Upwork, Forbes, Career Builder, Deloitte. They're coming from some pretty branded and trustworthy sources. Now, let's say you're a corporate executive and you're in middle management and you want to take that big step up to become, an executive vice president or a C-suite person. Well, let's see if it helps by having a personal brand to achieve those goals. 83% of board members consider a CEO's personal reputation when making leadership decisions. 70% of companies considered a candidate's online presence when hiring for executive positions. That's Korn Ferry. Korn Ferry is the leading executive search firm. 69% of executives believe a personal brand is more important than a resume for career advancement. Korn Ferry. 90% of top performing executives have strong personal brands and online presence. Executives with a strong personal brand are 60% more likely to be promoted within 5 years. Think about that one. 60% more likely to be promoted within 5 years. And that's from Harvard Business Review. 74% of corporate recruiters actively seek out C-suite candidates with established personal brands. One of the hottest industries going right now is the coaching and independent consulting industry. So let's take a look at that one. 88% of clients are more likely to hire coaches and or independent consultants with an established personal brand and online presence. That's from McKinsey. Consultants and coaches with established brands can charge up to 40% higher hourly rates. 77% of coaching clients choose a coach based on online reputation. 89% are more likely of clients are more likely to hire a consultant if they can access their insights online. Coaches with a strong brand are 4 times more likely to attract clients through referrals. So if you are a coach or you're thinking about the coaching profession, one, good on you for doing that, because it is one of the hottest, fastest growing industries, in the globe right now. And it's all about personal branding. If you are looking for customers, you're doing it wrong. Customers and clients have got to come looking for you. And the way they find you is through your personal brand. Now, let's say you want to become a published author or a paid speaker. 64% of publishers and literary agents prioritize authors with a well-developed personal brand. Authors with a social media following are 3 times more likely to secure book deals. 3 times. 80% of event organizers look for speakers with strong online presence. That's 4 out of 5. Speakers with a strong personal brand have 34% more repeat bookings. Authors with a recognizable brand see 40% higher book sales. 7 out of 10 publishing professionals prioritize authors with proven followings. 7 out of 10. Individuals with a well-crafted personal brand are 45% more likely to receive offers for paid speaking engagements. And I think this one just puts the nail in the coffin here. 85% of TED speakers have robust personal brands, highlighting the importance of visibility for high-profile speaking events. 85% of TED speakers have robust personal brands. I think that says a lot there. Well, what about our real estate agent friends? This is truly their business right here, having a personal brand. 85% of buyers and sellers want to work with an agent who has a good reputation, underscoring the value of personal branding. 88% of consumers trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations, making a strong online presence crucial. Wow, 88% of consumers see no difference between an online recommendation and a personal one. That is pretty staggering in my opinion. 82% of agents plan to enhance their social media presence to grow their business. 82% of them are doing that because they feel like they're going to go out of business if they don't, because they're going to fall to their competitors. Over 90% of real estate agents utilize social media for their business activities. Attending local networking events leads to a 24% increase in property listings for real estate agents. 24% increase by networking. So hopefully I've made the argument that having a personal brand can be extraordinarily helpful in helping you achieve your goals. But what is a personal brand? We haven't really fully addressed that yet. So let's answer that question right now. This is my definition of what a personal brand is. And that is, a personal brand is your reputation within your network of people who can help you achieve your goals. Now, let's say that again. It is your reputation within your network of people who can help you achieve your goals. So there's some major components to that. And I'm going to tell you that if you miss some of those components when you're trying to create a personal brand, things are going to go like crazy. They're going to go bad wrong, scary wrong. So, all 3 of those are integral to a personal brand. So your personal brand is observed. So it's more impactful and believable than a resume where most reviewers have grown skeptical believing what is written. Let's be honest with ourselves. Everybody lies on their resume. Your personal brand conveys intangibles. These are probably the most important traits. We're talking about things like character and likability and willingness to give back and all these things. Those are probably the most important traits that are that are sought after in order to make a decision regarding giving you an opportunity. A personal brand always stays with you as you move from opportunity to opportunity, creating personal equity. And that is different than a resume, which is tied to your past, not your future. Your personal brand projects what your potential is. Your resume just says what you've done. And like I said, it's frequently read with a lot of skepticism. And then your personal brand creates passive opportunities. And most opportunities are filled by candidates who are discovered passively. I'm not talking about the people who are applying for the opportunities. I'm talking about people go looking for these, the decision makers, they go looking for these candidates. And if you don't have a personal brand, you'll never be found. And that's where most of the opportunities are going, to people who are sought after, not the people who are seeking the opportunity. And there's a flip there, and that's a mindset shift. So let's take a look at a side by side comparison. Again, your personal brand is not your resume, and that is a very, very good thing, because your resume is read while your personal brand is observed. Therefore, it has more impact. It's Your resume is read with skepticism. Why? Because everybody lies. Everybody lies on their resume. While your personal brand is more impactful and believable. Your resume omits your intangibles. And let's be honest, how can you really say on your resume, hey, I've got really great character. I'm the best. I'm likable. Everybody loves me. Well, let me tell you something. If you write that on your resume, there's some red flags popping up, because modesty is not one of those intangibles that you allegedly have. So you can't really brag about yourself like that on your resume, talking about how likable you are and how much character you have and all that kind of stuff. You can't do that. However, your personal brand, that's first and foremost of what is observed about you. It's your intangibles. And that is by far the most important thing when you're trying to land an opportunity, land a customer, or just influence other people in any way. Your resume is unknown to almost everybody, while your personal brand is available to everyone to see. Your resume is helpful for only pursued opportunities. And in order for that to happen, you've got to be aware of the opportunity. You've got to be aware of the details of that opportunity so you can customize your resume and tailor it to that. You got to make sure that, when you submit your resume and application, that it's going to be read. Most of the time it is not. And then if it is read, then you're hoping and praying that it's actually read by somebody who can actually translate your resume and align it with the objectives of the opportunity. Again, I want everybody to mentally picture the 5 recruiters that they know of, and then I want you to think, do these 5 recruiters that we're all thinking about, the 5 that are most known to each one of us, are they qualified to read your technical resume, your executive resume? And are they qualified to know if what you're saying on that resume aligns with the job description of what is actually required, not what some hiring manager, fills out in 15 minutes and say, oh yeah, look for candidates who have these search words on their resume. Big difference. And then finally, your resume is a single point of reference. Your personal brand, what it does is it energizes force multipliers, your network. All those people in your network, they're there to help you, and you're there to help them. But we're talking about you right now. So what your personal brand does is it creates force multipliers to help you obtain your goals. Now, you're probably giving me the eye roll right now and saying, yeah, I don't know, Randy, but this kind of drives it home a little bit. We've all done this. We've all applied for jobs in the old-fashioned way. We upload our resume and basically it just disappears. Nothing ever happens. When you're looking for that opportunity, you can grow old and die before you ever hear anything from the company that allegedly has tons of openings that you're overqualified for, but yet you never hear anything about. Now, why is that the case? Well, Here's why. 85% of senior opportunities are filled by candidates who are discovered by their personal brand. Now, think about what I just said. 85%. So if you don't have an effective personal brand, you're banking on being one of those 15%. I don't think anybody wants to have that, those level of odds. So I can vouch for that. My experience as an employer, I've been the owner and CEO of several companies, and I've hired, you know, a lot of people. I would say well over 500, and all of my senior hires were based upon their reputation, their personal brand, and in most cases, they didn't even complete the job application until after I made a job offer to them. I said, hey, I'd like to offer you this opportunity right here. Bob, I've known you or known of you for several years now. And, I think you're the best thing since sliced bread. And, you've got strong character. You really help out. You give to the community. And I've seen your executive leadership, style and the way you interact with people. I've seen all that kind of stuff. I'd like to offer you this job for blank. And, but I need you to fill out the application because we're ISO 9001 certified. Hey, we got to cross the T's and dot the I's. But, I would say I'm hesitant to say all, but I can't think of a single one where I actually had a candidate submit an application. And that's the first time I ever knew of them. It's like, so I'll step up to it. All of my senior hires were done that way. I was still trying to think of maybe one that wasn't, but I can't think of any. Now, some of the junior hires, we don't know about these people because they're so young, or it's the kind of position where a person typically doesn't create a personal brand. And we've done for the really junior positions, we'll do that off their resume and their job application. But most of the time, we are looking for people. And the reason why that is because most opportunities, they're kind of like this guy right here. I wouldn't want any girl who wants me. You know what I mean? I'm being serious. Everybody who's hiring, everybody who's got an opportunity, what they're trying to do is they're trying to hire up. They want to get somebody that's probably better than what they should be getting. Everybody wants to reach up and get that candidate. They don't want to settle for somebody who applied to the job and he's been pestering you 24/7 about it. And like, man, if you want me that bad, it's like, this is a step up for you. I don't want to give an opportunity to somebody that this is a step up for. I want somebody who's proven he's got it going on and he's my first choice. I'm going to go looking for that guy. And because those guys aren't going to be putting their resume, on your job board. They're not applying for that open position. They're busy being successful right now. So that's kind of, the situation here. And that's why when this 85%, that's why it's happening. If you're looking for a job and you're uploading your resume, you're their second, third, fourth, or fifth choice. It's not their first choice. They want to go look for their first choice. So what you have to do is you got to think of your personal brand as a roadmap that helps decision makers find you for your dream opportunities. You want to make it easy for them to find you. And the way you do that is, having a really strong personal brand. Same way with your customers. You want your customers to find you. If you're a professional coach or a career coach or a lifestyle coach, whatever kind of coach you are, you want your clients to find you. If you're looking for clients, you're doing it the wrong way because now you're selling them something. You want them to come to you for a solution, not to hear that you're selling them something. So that's the value of a personal brand. It's a roadmap, and make it easy. A good, strong personal brand is where X marks the spot. You want them to find you easily for those opportunities. So at the risk of beating a dead horse over and over and over and over and over again, allow me to hammer this point one more time. A personal brand is observed. A resume is read. That is why 85% of senior opportunities are given to candidates with a stronger personal brand, not resume. So, your personal brand is a roadmap. It's a way to validate your credentials, your qualifications, and most importantly, your intangibles. But this is not what personal branding is. Personal branding is not getting clicks. That's what everybody thinks it is, but it is not. Your personal brand must be focused on your professional goals. Otherwise, it's just vanity. You're just a TikTok dancer unless there's a purpose behind it. You just want to get clicks and you want followers and you want everybody gushing on you, all that kind of stuff, but they're not the right people. So, again, you do not want to, maybe you do want to become a TikTok dancer. If that's your goal, then go for it. But if you want to become that C-suite person, or if you want to become a hard paid professional, if you want to become a successful entrepreneur or a small business owner or a realtor or a keynote speaker or published author, or career coach or professional coach, I'm telling you, it's not about getting clicks. And that's how personal brands go bad, because everybody focuses on just getting clicks, and they're not focusing on achieving their goals. Because I'm telling you, going for clicks will give people an impression of you, but it's likely not the one that you want them to have of you. What do I mean by that? And how can that happen? I thought, I've just been talking for the last 25 minutes about how great and wonderful a personal brand is, and, having a network and a following and all this is great stuff. And now I'm telling you that perhaps there's a bad side to this thing, and how can that be? Well, let me lay the foundation to explain how that can be. These right here are the top personal branding models: the 3 C's model, the pyramid model, the golden circle, the 5 P's, the authenticity model. Maybe you've heard of them, maybe you haven't. And and I've done a ton of research on these things, and they focus on good things. They really do. They focus on content clarity, consistency, authenticity, and performance. So now the question is, hey, what's so bad about these attributes? How can these traditional personal branding models lead you astray? Well, all of these personal branding models are focused on creating content engagement, clicks, and not your goals. And this is how having that approach can lead to some very unfortunate content. So what do I mean by unfortunate contents? Well, all roads lead to cat videos, and here's how. If you take the attributes and if you follow those models about your content engagement as being your primary, and in many of those models, your only focus, then you're going to come to this kind of understanding here. I authentically love cats. I'm consistent in my message, and my presentation is excellent. Most importantly, my content is performing with significant audience engagement with my cat videos. So now the question is does this person have a personal brand? They got a ton of engagement. They got a ton of followers. Their content is authentic. It's consistent. It's well presented. Maybe they're ultra professional in the way they're presenting it, and they're well spoken, or maybe they're doing videos and the videos are like really high, high, just high value. Do they have an effective personal brand? Well, they're definitely going to leave an impression, but it's probably, again, not the one that they want to have, because this is not the impression that you want a board of directors to have of you when you're hoping to be considered for their next CEO opening. I'm telling you, you're going to get a lot of clicks, a lot of views, a lot of engagement, a lot of followers, but it is going to work against you. So the reality of it is you're going to have 3 personal brands: a non-existent one, a good one, or a bad one. Now, a non-existent one is going to hurt you almost as badly as a bad one. What do I mean by that? If you're not online, if you can't be found, if you can't be observed, nobody's going to take a chance on you because they think you're hiding something, or they think you don't have you don't have the leadership, you don't have the thought leadership, you don't have the subject matter expertise, you don't have the character to be willing to share it, all that kind of stuff. So, having a non-existent personal brand is almost as bad as having a bad personal brand. Now, a bad personal brand is bad. And the reason why is because you have this guy right here, this image of you being a crazy cat lady instead of being somebody that a board of directors would want to hire to be their next CEO. A serious, high character, subject matter expert, a thought leader in the industry, all this kind of stuff. And, giggling and about cats is probably not the way to convey that. So the reality of it is we all have a personal brand. It's either non-existent, a good one, or a bad one. Now the question is your personal brand helping or hurting you? Because in today's day and age, it's almost an expectation now. And but it's also just an incredible opportunity for you to have too. A personal brand is your opportunity to create your own professional image. You can't mess that up. And everybody has that opportunity. And if you do a great job of it, you are literally, you can project yourself as a Greek god. You really can. But if you don't do a good job of it, you could be either a crazy cat lady, or you could be somebody who's hiding and they're just not willing to take a risk with you. So you can't mess it up, but sadly most people do. You got to look closely at this. I hope that's not a self-portrait. I found that on the internet. Now, that's a terrifying picture. So I hope that's not what she thinks she looks like. But the deal is you have an opportunity to create a self-portrait. It's got to be a good one. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you 3 questions to see if you actually have a good, or a helpful or a bad personal brand that can actually hurt you. So here's the first question. Do you have a formal goal map with short-term, intermediate, and long-term goals with defined and aligned branding objectives? I won't lie to you, most people think that they do. But this is what I really mean by that. Unless this is your answer, you're not going to get to where you want to go. And that answer is yes, I have a documented goal map with comprehensive, formalized, and interconnected strategies for branding, marketing, and networking aligned for each goal. This includes detailed timelines, role-specific engagement plans, multiple key performance indicators, scenario analyses, and real-time optimization based upon industry insights and shifting trends, ensuring all elements are consistently aligned with my overarching strategic goals. So unless that's your answer, you don't have a roadmap. You really don't. You might think you do, or you've got an overly simplified one that's going to be like virtually useless, but you don't have anything that's going to help you. Here's the next question. Do you have a large, detailed network aligned with your goals and objectives? Again, most people think that they do. I thought that I did. In 2020, man, I had 15,000 followers on LinkedIn or connections or whatever they're called now. And, I thought I did, but I didn't. I really didn't. I did not have all of the types of networks, network types that I really needed. I only had some. I had a lot of people who wanted to learn from me or wanted to sell to me. And I had like I said, tens of thousands of those, but I didn't have in my network the kinds of people that could facilitate my next big opportunity. I didn't have those kind of people. And in reality, my network and brand was isolated to just my companies, a handful of partners that I had, and a handful of customers. That's it. That was my entire network. And then everybody else was people who wanted to learn from me or to sell me something. So I thought I had a network, but I really didn't. And chances are you don't either unless you can answer that question this way. And if you can't answer, you can't answer it this way, buddy, you're doing it alone. You're doing it without any help from an effective network. So, yes, each network is mapped specifically to align with stated goals and includes personalized engagement strategies, communication plans, and measurable outcomes. My networks have detailed personas for each type of network member. This includes mentors, collaborators, influencers, decision makers, connectors, advocates, gatekeepers, thought leaders, referral sources, clients, and subject matter experts. So, unless you can identify the types of network members that you need to help you achieve your goal and you're targeting your content for that, you're not helping yourself. And then this is the final question. Are you creating effective content to create a helpful personal brand? Again, a lot of people think that they are. Yes, my content is specifically created to achieve specific observations from each network type that is required to help me achieve my goals. I have created content sources and selected the most appropriate mediums to optimize the content required to achieve this desired observations from each network type. I have a strategic content management plan with a detailed schedule and key performance metrics so I may continuously improve my content for each network type. Again, if this is not your answer, you're likely sending either the wrong message or a mixed message to your network. That's best case scenario is it's a mixed message. Worst case, and probably the more likely situation is you are sending the wrong message to various types of network types. So again, you can't get this wrong. This is not about getting clicks. It's not about pushing out content, making posts. It's got to be with a purpose, and you got to really think it through. At Create Personal Equity, this is our process that we help our clients, work through. It starts way over at the right with goals. You have to have goals. Ultimately, that is your destination. That's where everything, should be focused on. Then your next thing is networks. There's a saying, and if you haven't heard it, you need to remember this. This is probably one of the most important things I'll say today. Your network is your net worth. And that is a fact. And because it is your network, and again, there's lots of different types, but we bundled them in 3 different categories. People who can advocate for you to get that, to achieve your goals, who can actually make it happen. You have enablers that give you whatever it is that you need from a skill set, or an access standpoint. And then you have mentees. And people always ask me, well, Randy, why are you giving back to people? Like, mentees can't help you. These are the people you're helping. They know less than you. But this is what it does for them. It allows your advocates and even your enablers to observe you do something really good. They can observe you become, a thought leader, to share your subject matter expertise. Helping out mentees is a way that you can highlight certain attributes that you want your advocates. These are the people who can help you achieve your goal, that they need to see from you. So those are your networks. It's the most important thing. It's all about your network. It's the most important thing on this slide right here. And each network type, they've got to see or witness or observe different observations to give them the comfort that they need in order to be able to advocate for you, or to be able to help you, or to think highly enough of you to follow you in order to be mentored by you. They have to see these observations. That's how you attract a network, is by your promulgating content that shows or highlights aspects of you. And we're talking about a lot of intangibles here, but as well as subject matter expertise and executive leadership, all those type of things. Now, so they have to have these observations. So then what you have to do is you got to push out content across mediums that various types of network members utilize? What is the most effective one? Is it more believable coming from this medium or that medium? You know, where do most of our network hang out? Or do they hang out on LinkedIn or they're hanging out on TikTok? You got to know what mediums are best for what content types. That's going to resonate, the best with each network type. And then finally, you're talking about your content. This is content that you got to be really clever with. Because if you want everybody to know that you're a great and wonderful, humble person, and you're very humble, you can't say, "Hey, I'm the most humble person in the world. I'm so humble that everybody's amazed by my humility because I'm really humble. I got it going on, but I'm humble." You see what I mean? It's like there's certain content that can't come from you. They've got to be observed. So what you need to have is you need to have different sources where this content is being promulgated. If it's all being promulgated by you, then you can't highlight your character or your humility. You can't do that. So you have to have different sources that enable you to have different types of content about you that's going across different mediums that will allow observations to be made by your network that gives them confidence to advocate for you to achieve your goals or to give you those goals. And then along the way, you got to have metrics. You got to evaluate how well you're doing in each one of these phases. So this is like the 50,000 foot level, but this is how it really works. Basically, for every goal and network type and observation that you want to have, what you have to do is you've got to do a mapping. So you've got to come up with mediums and content and sources that can highlight your character. Your character can be observed by boards of directors who can hire you to become their next CEO. That's how it really works. How can I have people observe my high character who happen to be boards of directors, targeted towards boards of directors, so they'll know that I would be a great candidate for their next CEO opening. So how do you do that? Well, this is just a simple example. This is kind of like the 10% solution here. So if you want to become a CEO and you know that character is one of the leading traits, one of the most important observations that a board of director can have of you in order to advocate for you to become their next CEO. So boards of directors are the people that you want to influence. The way you're going to influence them is by creating content, pushing it out through various mediums that they're familiar with, to allow them to observe that your character. So how would we do this? So let's start with you. Anything that you promulgate, regarding yourself and your high character is going to ring hollow. It's going to ring hollow because one, it's coming from you and you're unbiased. Two, it comes across as being arrogant, or cocky or flamboyant or whatever it is. You just can't say, "Hey, I got high character." It's just like saying that, "Hey, I'm the most humble person in the world. My humility is second to none. Check out my humility. I'm really humble. Check me out. I'm more humble than you." It doesn't work that way. So how do we do that? Well, you launch a nonprofit that is relevant to the boards of directors. And then that enables you to come up with different types of content. Oh, advocacies of various issues, pertaining to that nonprofit. Then you get to highlight your nonprofit's positive impact, and how they're making a difference. And that is very subtly, but very obviously highlighting your leadership experience, your success with that nonprofit. And this content is going to be pushed out on various mediums. It can't be from you, via an email or a resume to the boards of directors about how great and wonderful you are. But if it comes from different mediums, like for example, your nonprofit should have a LinkedIn newsletter. that highlights all this advocacy and all this kind of stuff. Your nonprofit should be listed on your LinkedIn page, so it's associated with you. It should have its own website, and the second most visited page on any website is the About page, which talks about its leadership and its mission and your why story. So on that nonprofit organization's website, the About page, it's about your story. It's just like, for example, if you wanted to help out, people with veterans who are leaving the military and who kind of leaving their reputation behind in uniform. Hey, I'm going to launch a nonprofit organization that's going to help veterans build their personal brand, so they'll be more competitive for jobs and they'll have greater opportunities, and that's and then you highlight your story. Hey, when I was a transitioning veteran, I really struggled because I didn't have this and I couldn't get a job, and I had to overcome it, and now that I'm in a position to really help out people and to mentor them and to share my knowledge with them, I jumped at the opportunity to do it because I want to give back to these people who've given so much. You know what I mean? It writes itself. There's press releases. People take press releases as almost being the gospel. Hell, you write your own press release though, so you can slant that any way that you want. Press releases are written by you, but they have an aura of credibility more so than others. So these boards of directors, they're seeing all this content that's coming out about your nonprofit organization, how you're advocating for it all the time for this such a noble cause. You're sharing your story with it. You're sharing your success leading this nonprofit and how it's giving back to the community and how successful the nonprofit is and taking care of these veterans that we owe so much to and all this kind of stuff. Because let's just say this is for a federal government contracting company. Well, guess what? Boards of directors of federal government contracting companies, many of those people are flag officers, and I would say most of those are probably veterans. So they're going to have a soft spot for what you're doing, helping out people that they care about. So by doing that, they're not only going to observe your character, they're going to observe your executive leadership, your community involvement, and your influence. Those are all intangibles that are so vitally important. And that's just one source. That's to accomplish one observation by one type of network for one goal. So you're going to have a bunch of these things. How are you going to highlight your subject matter expertise? Well, maybe that's you providing a LinkedIn, newsletter or podcast or something like that to get. So in a very modest way, you're sharing, you're not bragging about your knowledge, you're sharing your knowledge. You got to do it in a way to be perceived that way, to be observed that way. But, so you're going to have a lot of different sources, creating a lot of different content, going across a lot of different mediums to accomplish a lot of different observations that your different network types need to see in order for them to advocate for you to achieve your goals. Because these networks, again, you're going to live or die by your network. So again, you're going to do that for each network type observation pairing. Now here's the rest of the story. I just went off on personal branding models. And hey, we still like personal branding models, and they're a very significant part of our overarching strategy. However, it's not just the content engagement that's important to us in helping our clients. It's our clients' goals. The goals have got to be first and foremost, and everything else has got to be reverse engineered, from whatever your goals are. And personal branding models are not sophisticated enough to really do that. What they really do is they just make sure you've got clickable content. And like I said, if you're only focusing on clickable content, all roads lead to cat videos, and you do not want that because, boards of directors, I don't think they hire too many crazy cat ladies. You got to be very protective of your personal brand. So with that, questions. I wanted to leave about 5-10 minutes for questions, and let me stop sharing.
Oh my gosh, Randy. I have three monitors. So I have Facebook up on one side, YouTube, and then LinkedIn up on the other side. It is tricky to navigate all these chats. Uh with that, question for you. Uh
Mm-hmm.
one moment here while I look. You and I talked about this. We kind of game planned this a bit
Mm-hmm.
beforehand. Like I highlight how negative images. I'm trying to think of how to articulate this. Like, how does having a bad brand hurt you? I guess and I'm specifically poking at that pain point. And from my own experience, I
Yeah.
am a C-suite and I do hire, hundreds of people. You
Mm-hmm.
mentioned a number earlier, but I research the heck out of people. I deep dive. If it's online, I'll find it.
Oh, absolutely. And now people are paid to do that.
Yes,
If
sir.
you're hiring for any significant level of position, somebody is going to research you, and they're going to be on page 10 of a Google search of you. And they're going to be looking for content. And every single post you've ever done on LinkedIn, it's going to be read. It really is.
Oh,
Now they've got software that scrapes this stuff for them. So you got to be really careful about the content that you're putting out there, because you're right. It can devastate you. I can't tell you how many times I pulled the plug on a candidate because of the content that I read,
oh my gosh,
or
yeah.
that was shown to me. Like I said, we paid people to research, our senior hires. So did they, and then I thought I knew this guy, and then I started, pulling the string a little bit more, and like, wow. And a lot of this content, let me just say this: we're all people, we all make mistakes, and we all act a little bit differently when we're around the people that we trust and know. And we're a little bit faster and looser with the things that we say, and we're a little bit more guarded in public. I get that, but it's also a lapse of judgment when you let that barrier down, when you're dealing with the internet. I tell my kids, if it's on the internet, I'll even go one step further. If you're typing it in your keyboard, you've got to assume that somebody will see it at some point.
Yes, sir.
And if you're not comfortable, you know, doing it, and letting the world know, and honestly, I had a simple litmus test. If I didn't want my kids to see it, I didn't do it, or I didn't say it. You know what I mean? Because as a parent, I didn't want them to look poorly upon me. So that was my litmus test. It's like, would I want my kids to read this about me, or would I want them to read this post? And then, frequently it was like, no, I'll back off of that. So, but they're, talking about a bad brand. You know, we're just talking about specifically the content piece of this thing. You can make bad personal branding decisions across every single one of those phases of our process. Your goal,
Accidentally, not on purpose, just by
but
it's
by
more
not
likely
following
than
the
not. Yeah.
process. Yeah, yeah. I tell you what, you're doing it whether you're intentionally doing it or not.
Yes, sir.
As soon as you're pushing out content, you're going to have observations. You're going to attract a network. Is it the network that you want? Is it the network that's going to help you, or is it a network that's going to kind of be negatively associated with you, or you're going to be negatively associated with that network? You don't want to have that. So each one of those phases, there are really horrible decisions or choices that you can make, and the worst one that you can make is no decision at all because you never even considered it. That is the worst thing to do. If you're talking about, what kind of network do you need? Well, let me just say this: you start pushing out some content, and that content is, flavored a certain way, you're going to get a network. And again, that network is going to reflect who you are. It's just like this. I always tell my kids, you are going to be associated with the people that you hang out with. Now, if you hang out with really good, nice, smart, polite kids, guess what? People are going to think you're like that. But if your network, includes people that have attributes that you don't want to be associated with, you're pushing out some bad content. because your content is attracting the wrong kind of followers, and you don't want to be associated with that. So a lot of people make the obvious and the very easily corrected one, like you pushed out bad content. Shit, we've all done that. You see, I even said a
Oh,
curse word right there.
awesome.
You
That
know
was
what I mean?
ironic.
Yeah, that was ironic. Yeah, I
It
planned
happens.
that there,
It
Jonathan.
happens. It's
But you
normal.
understand what I mean? Like
Yes,
if I
sir.
got on here and I started cursing every other word, and this content's out there on the internet, it's like, oh my gosh, this Randy, man, he's got a potty mouth. We don't want him, around people in this politically correct environment that we need to foster. Yeah, so that would be bad content. That is by far the easiest kind of content to overcome. How do you do that? You suppress it. You just bury it with better and better and better and better and better and better content. You can't even find the content that I pushed out 3 years ago now. You can't even find it. It's still out there, but it is so far down. And now it looks like, in this world of deep fakes and stuff like that, like saying like, he's probably not even his. You know what I mean? Because like 99.9% of everything else he says is really good, and then we got this bad, this bad stuff over here. So that's the easiest. It's the easiest to correct, and that's bad content out there. The hardest one to correct is you got a bad network. That's the
Oh my
worst
gosh.
one because you got all these people and they linger, and you're trying to get rid of them, or you're trying to start fresh, and they keep on coming back. It's just like that bad penny. It's like the drunk cousin that keeps on showing up at the holiday events. It's like, I'm bringing over my date. I don't want drunk cousin Alvin over here passing out on her. You want to have a good first impression, but your cousin there is not helping you out much.
Randy, we are in our last 4 minutes here,
Uh,
and I'd like just to toss a situation at you. And for the audience, Randy and I didn't talk about this ahead of time. I have bad stuff, hypothetically. I have bad stuff on my profile. How would create personal equity? What are you guys going to do for me? Like what's the next step for those that have stayed on this call long enough? And you and I talked about this ahead. I've had a bunch of people reach out to me and ask me about this problem. Like it's a thing.
well, there are tricks. It depends on how severe it is. If it's a very severe, you woke up one day and you say, you know what, maybe I shouldn't be a racist, sexist pig.
Hmm.
You wake
Oh
up one
gosh,
day
but it's a real thing.
yeah.
People
Or
do it.
honestly, I'm going to share this with you too. Depends on what kind of jobs you're pursuing or what type of opportunities. If you have a very strong political affiliation, it's just as bad.
Oh
Why?
my
Because
gosh.
50% of the people are going to hate you for it. So now you wake up and you say, like, man, maybe wearing that MAGA hat and all the time, maybe that's a bad thing. Or maybe my he, they, it, pronouns, maybe that was a little bit too, maybe I was a little bit too woke, or whatever it is. I'm not going off on either political paradigm. What I'm trying to say though is if you go too severely to one camp or the other online, 50% of the people are going to hold that against you. 50%. And you know what? It changes. Like it may be the hottest thing in the world to be throwing around pronouns today and advocating for X, Y, and Z. But in 2 or 3 years, people are saying like, man, that was the most ridiculous thing in the world.
It's just how it works, right?
It's just
Bell
like, or
bottoms.
MAGA. It's like
It changes.
what? Like I can't believe that. Like you were a MAGA, you were voted for. So again, so let's just assume that you're not the racist, sexist, murdering person that you're not.
Going from fun guy to professional guy.
Yeah, yeah, okay, fun
Same
guy
thing.
to professional guy. The deal is it depending on how severe it is. If it's not too severe, you just suppress it. You just create such good content above and beyond it that even if somebody does find it, they're going to say, well, kids will be kids, man. That was back when he was really young, and yeah, it wasn't so bad, and we all did it, but that kind of stuff. So if it's not too bad, you do that. But if it is really bad and you can't overcome from it, hey, change your name. And I'm not talking about going in formal name change. Start going by a derivative of your name. So now you're creating a little bit of ambiguity about whether or not all those horrible content content was associated with Randy Wimmer or Randall Wimmer or J.R. Wimmer. Or actually, Randall is my middle name because that's a common thing that I would recommend is start going by derivative of your middle name. You haven't changed your name. My name is James Randall Wimmer Jr. My dad was Randall, and I was always known as Little Randy. So, now that I'm older and stuff like that, it's like, people always say like, oh, you need a little bit more professional sounding name than Randy, So I go by Randall now. But if I had an issue with Randy Wimmer, which I don't, I had no personal brand with Randy, but now I've completely rebranded more or less as Randall Wimmer, and I've created a new identity by just going by my middle name, a derivative of my middle name. So, like Jonathan,
You,
you could be John or Johnny or
oh my
whatever it
gosh.
is, and you could like, and now people are wondering whether or not hey, is that Jonathan and Johnny the same person? Because Johnny doesn't act like Jonathan did. Jonathan was an asshole. You know,
He was. He was.
Johnny guy, he seems like likable. They can't be the same person. So there are little tricks like that that you can do as well.
Oh my gosh, we are at time right now. I would still like
Mhm.
to kind of connect the dots from our service, create personal equity to the problem, right? So the problem is, well, we I'm gonna describe two different problems. We just described one. There's like yeah, evolution of post, starting off when you're not professional and now you're a
Mhm.
professional and you got to do something about that. Well, the other one is I am a professional and I want to become the best professional. I want to be the king of the mountain. And you can't do that in isolation. You can't do that
Right.
without an online brand, right? Like let's say you already have the baseline of the average kind of branding, the normal person, but you want to be an excellent person. You want to be the best in what you do. Let's speak to that a little bit. How will we as create personal? I'm
Yeah.
these are all
Well,
loaded.
you know what? Then we're going to follow the path that I followed, and that you
Yes,
helped me
sir.
with, Jonathan.
And
Because, like I said, in 2020, I just sold my third company in 5 years. Third company. Yeah, after those companies doing hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts. And third company, I had won awards. They were all the companies were
you
on
sold it
Inc.
for a lot. You were
500.
super
Yeah,
successful.
yeah. It's like, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had a big dog resume,
Oh my
and
gosh.
you would think that somebody who had just sold their third company and had grew from zero to the hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, you would think, or contract value, you would think like like, hey, somebody would may be interested in that person helping them lead their company or their major business unit or sit on their board or whatever it is. And the number of opportunities that came after I cleared my non-competes was like none. And it's not that I joke about that. I had a personal brand that was worse than somebody who'd been dead for over 40 years, but I did have a little bit, of brand out there, but not much. And, it wasn't much for us to start working with, but through having a plan and being diligent, and how we attack that, having a content schedule, keeping our network warm, through our customer relationship or our network relationship management system, that really changed everything for me. And I'm not, I don't, I never consider any of them, but I get now probably a very interesting opportunity presented to me at least, once a month, maybe every 6 weeks or something like that. And these were the opportunities that I expected in 2020 when I was like really relevant and just right out of the industry. But now I'm getting them, 5 years later. Why? Because I have a personal brand. I'm recognized as a subject matter expert in federal government contracting. I'm seen as somebody who's giving back to the community through these social impact companies, and so you know what I mean. It's like it's very doable. But if you don't have a plan, you know, best case scenario is it's going to be unhelpful. Worst case scenario is you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. You
Totally.
really are, because you know putting content out there, it's going to leave an impression. Whether it's a good impression or a bad impression, well, that's to be determined. So just like I said, the best case scenario is you do it ineffectively and it doesn't help. The worst case scenario is you're really screwing yourself up and you're taking options off the table. So there really is no one single thing. It's a whole bunch of little things that you have to do. And
Oh my gosh. You
yeah,
know,
it's like no,
good.
go ahead.
Okay, well, just for a moment here, I'm going to take the reins just a tiny little bit. I know personally, so I'm a LinkedIn top voice. I've had the opportunities to speak with a lot of the 1%, as high as you can possibly go
Mhm.
because of the personal brand that I built.
Well,
And then
can I
yes,
just
sir.
add
Yes,
something right
sir.
here? For those of you who don't know, there's 300 LinkedIn top voices, period. 300. There's over 1 billion LinkedIn users, and Jonathan is one of those 300.
Yes,
He
sir.
has the same LinkedIn status as POTUS, President of the United States, and other world leaders, as well as some of the most famous celebrities that you can imagine. You know, he has the same status, has the same level of success as those people, same followings. He's a boxing coach on the side, and he's got his professional life, and then he's got his fun life, which is boxing, and just his fun part of his life. He has got like 80,000 viewers, dialing in. They stop whatever they're doing.
On Thursday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on 80,000 people believe that watching him is more important than anything else that they can have going on in their life.
And
That is how influential Jonathan is. So go ahead. So I just wanted people to understand when you say you're a top voice, what that truly means.
oh my gosh, and that's where I was going with that. So I'm at that spot now, where we have 500,000 people that are watching my boxing channel, right? And yeah, how did I get there? By making every single mistake you can possibly make. The
Mhm.
Thomas Edison, I one way to was I can't remember his saying, but he found one light bulb by making 10,000 light bulbs that didn't work. Yeah, I don't remember
Oh,
the quote.
absolutely. It's so true. It's like, and the deal is, again, the reason why I'm such an advocate for coaching, because I guess I never really thought
Big
of
deal.
myself as a coach, but I guess I'm a coach when it comes to like government contracting academy.
Yes, sir.
I help aspiring entrepreneurs and small business owners in the federal government contracting industry, and the reason why I'm able to do that is because it took me 8 years to figure it out. During 8 years, I had like minimal success, minimal. I'm talking. This is how bad my success was. I had my in-laws begging me to apply for government jobs. Why? They wanted me to give up this stupid, silly dream of launching a federal government contracting company because I just was unsuccessful. I kept on stepping on all of these landmines. So what I was able to do is I took 8 years of stepping on landmines, trying to cross that entrepreneurial minefield. And now what I'm able to do is I'm helping people learn those lessons in 8 weeks. Eight
Yes, sir.
years to 8 weeks.
Speeding it up.
That's it. And I think that's kind of the value that we're able to offer here with Create Personal Equity. Plus, again, we're tying personal branding to your goals, not getting clicks. Getting a lot of these personal branding models and companies out there, they actually do you more harm than good if you're professional. Now, if you're 18, 17 years old and you just want a whole bunch of views because it's fun and you got an ego to itch, go for it. But I'm talking if you're a professional and you really truly want to get to that next level, then it's got to be tied to your goals.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I say this. I talk about the movie Braveheart quite a bit, and Randy knows what I'm talking about. It's fair probability our audience is too young to know what I'm talking about, but this is my Braveheart speech now. Randy and I discussed this earlier. Like, what are we going to give away? What are we going to keep back? And the conclusion was we're going to give most of it away, just about all of it away. Why? Because the real value add is that strategy that Randy was talking about, like how connecting all the dots that doesn't just happen, guessing your way to it, similar to the 10,000
Yeah.
failed light bulbs. If you're willing to put out 10,000 failed posts, like I did, like Randy did, like if you're willing, we wish you the best, right? Like all the way.
It's doable. You can figure it out too.
Anybody can do, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're willing to.
Yeah. So, but the deal is there's a time value of money, and
That's the thing. Yep.
yeah. So, but we're doing this as a social impact company, where we have to remain a viable company just because if we just volunteered our time and things, one, it would stop as soon as we stopped. And we want this to be able to continue because this is how pivotal this can be for
The world needs
life.
it. The world needs it. It's a
I'm
real
telling you,
thing, right? Yeah.
if you start focusing on your personal brand now,
Oh my
2025
gosh.
is your breakthrough year. It really will be. You will have opportunities that you never dreamed of by the end of the year. So that's why we have a year-long program, and our year-long program is broken up really into 3 phases. The initial phase, which takes about 2 months, is we got to collect a ton of information from you and
Oh
to
my gosh.
work with you and kind of assess, your comfort levels and this, that, and the other, and and be able to help reverse engineer your goals to your content, your sources of the content, and your network, and all that kind of stuff. So the first 2 months is kind of getting the strategy, together. Now that's not to say we're not doing stuff, we're doing baseline stuff, but with creating your network and things like that. But for the first 2 months, we are really honing that plan, and then for the next 4 months, we're doing it with you, side by side. We are going to be partners in crime and helping you get this content out there, create these sources of information, and just help you be successful. We'll help you write a book. We're going to help you write launch a nonprofit organization. We'll help you launch a podcast. All these things, if they're applicable to you, we help you do that. Now, some of those have additional costs just because they're expensive, and they're above the scope of what we're doing. But if you're interested in doing that, then we will help you do that. In fact, during that phase, we're at least doing 50% of it with you. So for the first 6 months, we're doing it with you. And then the next 6 months, we don't want to just leave you off at the at the pier at 6 months and say good luck. For the next 6 months, we're kind of in an advisory and an observation role where we're available to you if you have questions. We're there watching and observing and being able to provide you feedback, but we want to make sure you know how to fish. Because when we're fishing with you, we need to make sure, and you need to make sure that you can catch a fish without us baiting your hook. You got to be able to do that, and we're there for you for the second half of the year.
And that's
Now,
our goal. Like
no, yeah.
that's we're trying to get them. Yep.
So here's the situation. This type of service, because we've already priced out, we've already costed out our costs for that. And in order to do something like this, it's manpower intensive, and it's expensive too. And we've also looked at our competitors. Our competitors are charging close to 6 digits for a year-long service. So we're going to cut that in half and offer it for 50,000. But for now, as part of our 2025, let's make this year something special. We're doing it for 25K, $25,000, the cost of a used Hyundai. And during 2025, you can transform your personal brand to either non-existent or bad or very poor to game-changing breakthroughs, potential. This and that $25,000, you'll get that back every single year from here on out through increased earning potential. The best investment that you can make is an investment in yourself. If you're creating personal equity in yourself, that money never goes away. It stays with you and it compounds every single day that you're alive. So that's the special that we're offering right now. It's $25,000. But again, we can't do this for too awfully long, because when we're saying that we're doing that at cost, well, that's with us donating our time. And, at some point we can't do that. We can't just donate our time. But I recommend, if you want to learn more, please, 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 please schedule a one-on-one meeting with us. I believe the link, I believe it's.
Yep, we've included.
Yep, it's in there. So again, please schedule time, and what we'll do is and even if you just have questions about personal branding and you say, well, I can't afford it, right now, but whatever it is, again, this is a social impact company. Half of our mission is is for the social cause. We want to help people. We just need to make enough money to remain viable. But our primary focus is really to help people. So if you have questions, give us a shout.
Oh my gosh.
Any other thing though, Jonathan? I think I bludgeoned that sales pitch with a with a hammer.
So. Oh my gosh. I love this kind of stuff, and I could talk the rest of the day. I'm enthusiastic about personal branding. You spoke to our competitors, and yeah. I personally don't feel like we have comparable competitors. Why? Because we are not focused on quantity. We are not focused on the cap deals or whatnot. But we'll save that argument for a different day. Yeah.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jonathan.
Perfect. All right. Well, everybody reach out. Oh,